Perpetually Ajar. Wow, we're on episode 5. We did it, fam. I am your host, Katy Johnson, aka Weiss, Penny Fellow Donuts, Cinder the Fallen, and Velvet the Chocolate Rabbit. I don't know. I'm still coming up with a Cinder one. Please comment below if you can think of one. And of course, my amazing, talented, beautiful Beau, the co-host.
Wow, already gave my name. Anyways, what is up, guys? My name is Beau Ramos, aka CB Cosplay. I play Winter and Ilya for RWBY Abridged, and I'm also the VR short department lead, as well as a writer for the VR shorts.
Woo! That is so awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I also do a little dibble-dabble in the writing department. It's pretty fun. We have a lot of fun here at KRWBY, and we have a lot of awesome, talented people on our crew. Speaking of which, I know this joke is going to get old, but Beau, I do have to warn you, there is, this week, a person on this podcast with us. And next week, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to set some traps so that they can't sneak up on us. But this week, they did seem to get under our security system. So if they would like to introduce themselves so we can capture them and send them to the authorities. I'm stuttering because I'm nervous because they're really good at making me sound bad because they do audio. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. I'm Brian. I am the head of the audio department here at KRWBY Productions. And yeah, I mainly do audio things. I've been known to write here and there. I'm also the voice of Neptune Vasilius.
Woo!
Neptune vagina sales, as has been historically stated in the server. Yeah.
I need a backstory on that. So what did you just say Neptune was known as? Can I get a repeat there?
When I first joined the team, I just called myself Neptune in the server, and Star, being the person that she was, went to Tina and was like, "Hey Tina, you should change Brian's name to Neptune Vagina Sales."
Oh my god.
And so for quite a while I was Neptune Vagina Sales, and even though my name has changed multiple times, we always seem to come back to that one.
This is a beautiful demonstration of why everyone should join our KRWBY Discord server. But before we get into all of that, I would just like to know, how are you guys doing? What have you been up to? What is the newest thing on your dockets? Like, tell me how you are. I want to absorb your energy.
Man.
I'll let Beau go first. Beau, how you been? Tell me about yourself.
Tell me about you.
Still on my Borderlands bullshit.
Woo!
That's definitely still a thing. It's kind of toning down a little bit, but then the DLC's coming out in like a few weeks, so it's just gonna be right back on it again. Honestly, it's kind of hit that point in the year where I eat, sleep, breathe KRWBY. I've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So yeah. What about you, Brian?
Well, heck.
I've been working on a few things. I've been helping Cole with some of his school stuff. But yesterday recorded some auditions with myself and Annika for some Demon Slayer comic dubs. That was pretty fun. But yeah, mainly like we're ramping up some production stuff on some VR shorts. Ramping up production on RWBY Abridged. So we've kind of been in a lull. The audio team's kind of been in a lull for a little bit ever since Volume 2, Chapter 1, but we're about to be real busy. So
Nice. Well, yeah, I am actually filming this week for a little indie thing that's coming through Birmingham with some old college friends. I'm going to be on set all week after we film this, and then I've been doing auditions as well. And I actually, hopefully by the time this episode comes up, I will have a visual reel to show people of some of the online work that I have done. I'm very excited to have my first, albeit indie, kind of like baby's first reel, but I'm excited to showcase it a little bit because it'll be fun. It's gonna be cute, and yeah, that's sort of what I have been up to. And with KRWBY, every week something different is happening, and there's so many cogs turning that sometimes it's hard to keep up with it all. And I actually wanted to do something a little different with this episode. I wanted to move our
How dare
KRWBY
you.
News Corner. Yeah, that's right. Change is happening, you guys. We're doing it. We're making alterations. This is 2019, my dudes. When 2020, we can go back to all dying and suffering on the inside. But now is the time for living. And I'm going to be making the announcement right now that we are moving the KRWBY News Corner from the end of the episode to the beginning of the episode, and Beau has some awesome stuff that they would like to tell you about. So Beau, if you would please take us away to a magical KRWBY News Corner before we get into the main show. I'd love to hear what's going on. Tell me.
All right. So this is new for me. Originally, I wasn't going to have it at the beginning on this episode, but then I decided, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go ahead and do it. So welcome to the new position of the KRWBY News Corner. My name is Beau, and I'm going to be telling you guys about some stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
Yay!
First and foremost, from the Extra Life stream team, we have a statement about this year's participation. We will be hosting a 24-hour stream for Extra Life on November 2nd, starting at 10 a.m. This year, we are supporting the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and there will be more details to come out soon. So definitely keep an eye out on our Twitter. If you're in our Discord server, keep an eye out for those pings, because those are going to be the two main places I think that we're going to be posting all of that information. Everyone is really excited about it. We've got some awesome games and some awesome people lined up that are going to be playing throughout the 24-hour stream. So make sure to tune in to catch that. Moving right along, of course, Perpetually Ajar. All of our episodes come out every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So make sure to leave your comments down below, down there in the comment section, or in our Ask the Crew section on our Discord server. And just make sure that you kind of notate at the beginning, like, hey, Perpetually Ajar question. So that way we can kind of snatch it and use it in a future episode. So don't forget to do that, because we need your questions, guys. You got to give us stuff to work with here.
Yes.
Anyways, as always, make sure to check out our Patreon for exclusive behind-the-scenes content, as well as screenings and early releases of some of our videos. We post a lot of bloopers, just funny takes that didn't make it into a short. We post some behind-the-scenes stuff of modeling stuff, works in progress. So if that kind of stuff interests you, definitely check that out and see if maybe one of the tiers tickles your fancy.
Yeah, I've been talking with Tina a little bit about the Patreon. We got some cool stuff. I think,
super
coming down
excited.
the pipeline. Yeah.
But anyways, without further ado, that has been the KRWBY News Corner. Katy, back to you.
Whoa, thank you for passing it back, Beau. That was a beautiful KRWBY News Corner update, and I think we have some other exciting announcements for the next episode of Perpetually Ajar in terms of some other production-y things that are moving quite along that I may or may not have helped out with, and that'll be fun. But before we get to that...
Oh, you know what I forgot to mention?
Oh? What is that?
In addition to doing all of the sound stuff and whatnot, as of last episode, I am also the person who mixes this here podcast.
Oh, it's true. Brian is very amazing and does so much audio stuff. It's kind of crazy. If you guys need to hire somebody for audio, I highly recommend him. And I'm not just saying that because he's on my podcast and being a guest. I'm actually saying that because he's so hecking talented. And I die every time he shows me anything. I'm just like, how do you exist?
This guy is the reason the soundtrack sounded so amazing to Nondescript Winter Holiday. He composed that whole soundtrack based off of Jeff Williams and Alex Abraham's music. This guy is so incredibly skilled and talented. God. It's insane.
I'm
Brian,
not a composer. I'm really not.
But when you sent me the two different samples of kind of like an Elsa song, you kind of wanted a little...
The stupid Frozen joke in Volume 2,
yes,
Chapter 1.
I loved it. He knows his shit. I mean, yes, he might say he's not a full composer, but he is a red mage, my dudes. He is a jack of all trades in that sense. in it. I feel
did
like when
have
I
a
go
lot
to
of
him for
fun.
stuff.
I did have a
Yeah.
lot of fun doing the Frozen joke.
Yeah, it was so good. Like, I've never seen an abridged series quite have that much of a musical presence. Like, usually it's more based on the writing and jokes and well, I guess like in Hellsing Ultimate Abridged there are some song choices that can be pretty funny, but it was like more of an original make instead of like
Instead of pulling
terms of an instrumental.
an existing song and putting it in.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it was so good. But yeah, welcome to this new segment where we tell our guests how amazing they are for 5 minutes while they blush.
Absolutely.
Y'all
can't see him blushing,
Y'all are
but he
amazing.
is.
Y'all are amazing.
Aw, heck.
No, you're breathtaking.
No, you're breathtaking. I love that meme is still here. And honestly, wholesome memes need to stay in pop culture longer, and I'm here for it. So if we want to say you're breathtaking until we die, I don't care who thinks it's cringy. I'm going to do it. We need more happiness in the world.
So you mean say you're breathtaking until your breath is actually taken?
Yes, that is the energy I'm taking into 2020, my dudes. Like,
Okay.
I mean, hopefully I don't run out of breath in 2020, but I talk really fast, so I might. But now I think it's time, speaking of frozen things, why don't we get into our Weiss Breakers, our beautiful Weiss Breakers, because I think some Weisses need to be broken.
I don't know whether to be proud of you for that segment or disappointed for that segue.
Honestly, it's Beau that you should be proud of, because I think Beau is the first one to have made the pun, and I was like, stealing that ish. It is happening. And I love it. And if you, as an audience member, have suggestions for ways to make our show even punnier or even better, we are all ears. We want to do nothing but improve and make you guys happy. But before we make you guys happy, actually, that's a terrible way to do a segue. Before we don't make you guys happy, we are going to make you guys happy. Yay! We are going to do our Weiss Breakers. And our first Weiss Breaker is... Would you rather live your entire life in a virtual reality where all your wishes are granted, or just in the normal, real world?
I feel like that's a pretty that there's like not really a choice there.
I don't know. I feel like the responsibility of being if you're somewhere where literally anything is given to you at any moment, I feel like your happiness, I don't know.
But see,
Yeah.
I feel like
with
that's
your
so
wishes
much.
getting granted, if your wish is to be happy, then you would be happy.
Look, here's my thing, right? Virtual reality, that implies online. I've been online. I don't want to deal with people online. Okay? I think that being in a virtual reality where every single one of your wishes is granted, I think that breeds complacency. I think that breeds selfishness. So I mean, while it sounds cool, I would not want to live my entire life there. I think that I would want to stay in the real world.
Yeah, if you could have the option to put on the VR set and then go in that reality for a little bit, oh, this is fun. I mean, granted, there is a fear of that being addictive, but if you could take yourself out of it and have to put limitations on it, so you could just use it for, I don't know, eating a bunch of donuts and not gaining weight,
look,
then yeah.
I've dealt with the 14, 13-year-olds on Xbox Live, okay? I don't want that to be my whole life.
Actually, yeah, these are
but
valid
there's
points.
a block button for a reason.
Ooh, you could wish that they're all blocked.
I mean,
You could wish that it's only sexy anime girls that live there with you.
Hot damn, sign me the fuck up. Where do I sign up? Can I be a beater?
I'm more inclined to generally have the Brian mindset, but Beau keeps making some really good points. I don't know what to think.
It's whenever we play VR chat and someone's like, man, I hate this person. And I'm like, why don't you just block them? And they're like, shit, you right.
You right.
Man, if anything, I play VR chat so I can block the annoying people. Because you can't do that in real life. Because
okay, but
wait.
if you live in virtual reality, though, is there not a risk that your brain could get hacked because you've been digitized?
Ooh. But you could just wish it wasn't hacked.
Now we're getting into some Genlock shit here, Brian.
Oh shit. You right.
I'm gonna stick with it. I really love the idea of virtual reality being able to, going off of genlock, kind of like what Val does, where they're able to kind of live exactly how they wish they could on the outside. Like,
but they don't. But Val gets to come back to reality. Like,
well, yeah,
you're
no, but I'm
stuck
saying is
in
like
there.
how they use. I wouldn't say you're stuck in there. You've chosen to live your life there. Like, I'm gonna stick with it. I like the idea of living in virtual reality. You can.
Yeah, I mean, even setting aside the issues of, potentially having your brain hacked, dealing with 14-year-olds on Xbox Live, I really still think that living in any kind of world, virtual or not, where you get every single wish granted, is just I feel like that has serious potential to make you a bad person, and I think that you lose
that's too much privilege.
Yeah, it's a little too much privilege. Like, there's no, if you get everything you ever want, then can you really even set any goals for yourself?
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like that wouldn't be a very happy existence.
Yeah,
I mean,
if there was a way to maybe like have a limited number of wishes, maybe per year or something, like every year you get 5 wishes. And like they can only like I need limitations. Human beings need limitations. When we're presented with choices where it's like take whatever you want, we actually get stressed. There are actually studies on that. But when we are given like a choice between like 3 foods for dinner versus an entire like buffet, we actually feel calmer because we feel like we have a path we can take and we're not wasting time.
well, here, let me pose this question then, because I'm curious. Is instead of the whole like virtual reality, like or not virtual reality, the unlimited wishes or whatever. Like, if you could choose to live in a virtual reality world that is very realistic, that is essentially kind of like SAO or something, where there's realistic limitations and whatnot, would you rather live in a virtual reality or the real world?
I would actually take the real world because I like my body and my life, and I don't know what negatives could come with the virtual reality and what limitations there might be. If it was like a version, like, it's just, the virtual reality aspect of it, like, I like this reality. Like, I don't think I'd want it to be virtual.
I think, I don't know that I would want to live in a virtual reality setting like SAO. Because, I mean, poor Klein, he was going for pizza and then no pizza.
Yeah, if I could have the choice to like
actually, was that actual SAO or was that abridged? I don't remember.
That was actual SAO. He was like, "Oh yeah, I ordered a pizza. It should be here any minute. Yeah. I'm gonna log off. Oh, where's the log out button?"
Yep. That was actually very
Rip Klein.
Rip Klein.
Rip Klein.
I mean, he didn't die. Rip Klein's pizza.
No, yeah, his pizza.
Hey guys, did you know that if you die in VR chat, you die in real life?
Shit. But yeah, I think my answer is going to be I'm gonna stick to the normal world. So
same.
we have 2-1 for this first question.
It's always me. Why is it always me on the first question?
I know, it's interesting. But then like we switch it up by the end, so we'll see if we will. Let us get to our next Weiss Breaker. Would you rather be born again in a totally different life or born again with all the knowledge you have now?
Oof.
I'd say born again with all the knowledge I have now, because born again in a new life, I'm prone to make mistakes. Born again with all the knowledge that I have now, I would know not to trust people, specific people. I would know not to do specific things that led to huge changes in my life, and I would actively avoid that.
I feel like...
If you were...
Now, here's the thing, though. I feel like being a toddler with the brain of a 50-year-old would probably, like, freak some people out.
Also, I think being born again with all of this knowledge into a new family, you're going to just remember your old loved ones and the fact that you can never love them again the same way that you did.
Yeah,
They're dead. They're gone. The depression, the sadness that you will feel of losing all those people that you love, or knowing that they're out there but they won't know you and won't love you the way, like losing all of that love and being and living with the knowledge that you won't have that love. Like maybe you had a wife for like 30 years or a husband, and maybe you died, you're reincarnated, you know that they're out there, but you have to start over. I'd rather, if I'm going to have to start over, I think I'd want a blank slate.
Yeah, I think by the time you've lived 70, 80 years, right? You've racked up all these achievements. You've gone on all the side quests. I think at that point it's time to start a new game.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you make that analogy, because then there's me, who's spent probably close to 60 hours on Borderlands 3, max level my character. Instead of starting a new campaign with a new character, I started a new campaign at max level to just play at max level.
I mean, there is a side of me that would love the prospect of going through like life with certain knowledges that I have now, but just the very realistic human emotional, like empathetic, like relationship side of me would suffer so greatly. Like that I think that other knowledge, like I don't think it would just be a clean cut where like I come in like, whoa, how do I know all this stuff? Like I would also have to take all the other stuff that I'm losing. And I don't think that I would want to live like that. If it's going to be taken away, I'd rather it all be taken away.
Can I pose an idea? Because I think that potentially being reborn with that knowledge, because like, yeah, you could look at it in that really kind of almost sad, depressing side of like, man, I can't find my family, like I can never go back to them. But you've started this life with that knowledge that you essentially have lost everyone that you cared about. Wouldn't that then make any connections you make in this life that much more special? Because you understand what it feels like to lose that.
But wouldn't I be comparing them constantly to the people
I mean,
that I love?
that's up to you. That's up to you.
Let me pose something else, because actually, depending on who you talk to, this idea of being born again with all of your current knowledge is, depending on who you talk to, is actually not that far-fetched. There are a number of stories about, kids, toddlers who are like, who supposedly recall memories from like past lives, and they'll be able to tell you like, oh yeah, this was the person that killed me, and that kind of stuff. So I
actually had that happen to me when I was a kid.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you got to tell about it.
So
tell that story.
It was specifically, I was like, I want to say I was like 5 or 6, like not really like old enough to kind of be able to like read to a degree and whatnot, but not necessarily like research or like know a whole lot about a whole lot of things. Yeah. And my parents told me that at one point, and I have no memory of this, I'm just going off of what they told me. But they said that I had always had this huge fascination with pirates and with the golden age of piracy, and that when I was really little, I used to talk about having an imaginary friend named Anne, and that she was a pirate, and that we were going to be pirates together, and that basically my parents felt like there was too much information that sounded believable that I would kind of babble on about as a kid, and they looked into it, and a lot of the facts that I was like spouting off as like 5 or 6 year old me lined up exactly with the infamous female pirate Mary Read, who traveled with Anne Bonny.
Well,
so
shit.
It was just kind of like, which is funny because like I have now grown up with this like profound love of the golden age of piracy, just because like they told me that when I was like maybe 13, 14, because I was like, man, I don't know why, but pirates are so cool. And they were like, listen, Beau, we got to tell you this story about when you were little, and it still kind of freaks us out, but we're going to tell you anyways. But
Dang.
Take it how you will. And that was kind of when I really started to kind of entertain the idea of like, what if past lives do exist? I'm not saying that I was Mary Read in a past life, but maybe someone who had crossed paths with Annie at some point.
That's a really cool story. Beau always comes on here with like these enlightening stories that I'm just like, how? Oh, you're just this whole new person. This is amazing.
I just really like not limiting myself. Like, to a degree, you have to be realistic about things, but I've always just loved being open-minded about like the possibility of stuff like that. Like my mom was a very firm believer in the power of suggestion and like the power of attraction, where it's like if you want something, you need to like emulate that, and you need to put that out into the world in order to attract it back. You know? So,
I definitely agree with that.
but
Yeah, no,
that
it's
was
hard.
just funny that you mentioned the whole like previous lives and people, you know, have no idea or whatever.
Yeah, although
One thing that
in pretty much
sorry.
in pretty much every single case I've ever heard of something like that, it's usually like basically, you know, your story lines up perfectly where it's like there's as a very young kid there seems to be things that they remember, but then as they grow up all of those memories go away. So I mean that seems to be the prevailing attitude towards it. So I don't know. So I mean, by basically what I'm saying, Katie, is like your question might actually like I said, depending on who you talk to, your question might actually not be that far fetched. It's just that you don't. It's just that later on, you know, once you grow up, you forget everything.
Yeah, but with your game analogy, like one of the best feelings that I've heard people wish for is like, I wish that I could forget this episode so I could rewatch it and experience it for the first time. I wish I could forget this game so I could replay it for the first time. So what if it's a comparison of that feeling versus an isekai, where you're put into a whole new world? So like, it's isekai versus getting to restart and have that feeling of doing something for the first time. And I love that feeling of learning something new. And like, there's nothing new under the sun. So when you actually feel like you're learning something new, it's kind of like a reflection of the past and how people also learned and passed down that knowledge. So I think from like a deeper standpoint too, I like the idea of getting to experience something totally new without any knowledge holding me back of what I think I should be or shouldn't be.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. I think, you know, just again, kind of going off of the whole, like, it's really interesting because it's just like, I don't think necessarily energy, and now we're really starting to get into arguing like religion, so I'm not going to get too political about it.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
Like it's really, to me anyways, I don't see energy or whatever you want to consider like a soul or you know, like whatever gives the soul its ability to move on and whatnot. I don't necessarily see that it ever fully disappears. It just transforms into what it's supposed to be next.
Yeah.
I love the idea of there being at least some kind of lingering memory of what you were previously.
Or a connection to the past. Yeah. That is a really beautiful thought.
But then, you know, it's also interesting too, because I read somewhere online, we're getting really into this, but it's just such an interesting topic.
Yes.
I read somewhere online that someone had this really weird like belief system, and I kind of have almost agreed to it to a degree, where it was like, if you've ever been like a history buff, and not even necessarily like a historian, but you've had like a period of time that you went through a time in your life where you were like really just kind of intrigued and almost obsessed with that time of like that era, is that's because that was when your soul first came into existence. That was when your first life was, and that's why you feel so drawn to it. But then contrary-wise, I have a friend who has never felt like a pull to any kind of era or anything, and is very much so always looking to the future and everything. And I had just jokingly, but then it kind of like, we both sat there after I said it, and we were like, oh shit, that actually makes sense. I was like, well, that's probably because this is your first life.
Ooh.
And it just was like, it's just such an interesting concept. It's something that I've always been so interested in ever since my parents told me about that pirate story, and how I've always been obsessed with pirates. Like, literally, my name is Crimson Blade, Crimson Cutlass. Like, pirates are my life, man. So yeah.
Do you read One Piece?
I do not.
Oh my god. Goyle, you need to read One Piece.
It's on my list. It's on my list. It's just a huge commitment.
It really is, but if you love pirates as much as you're saying, I mean, it don't get pirateier and more shonen
fair.
beautiful.
Plus, Colin Clinton buried in the English dub, so.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, my final answer: Born Again with all the knowledge.
Ooh, and my final answer is Born Again with no knowledge. Brian, new game, new life.
Yeah.
New map.
All right, so these first two questions, it is Beau that is the odd one out, and then we are the kind of the other odd side. So we're gonna get to our last question and see if we can get to a final mix-up. Our final Weiss Breaker is: would you rather be able to stop time or fly?
This one's easy. Stop time, hands down.
Absolutely.
Oh wow!
Stop
I
time.
was gonna say, okay, I'm the odd one out. I'd rather fly.
Really?
Because stopping time is too much. Again, it's too much responsibility. I think that it would kind of make me complacent. And flying is something that would kind of add to my life, but stopping time gives me way too much power. I don't think somebody should have that much power.
See,
because I think it can do too much to your mind.
I think you're right. I think that it could be a little. I think that in the hands of the wrong person, that could be very dangerous. I do not think that I'm the wrong person, because there is one thing and one thing only that I would use that power for, and that's for when I want to sleep or when I'm late.
I will say that one of my beliefs is that people are a product of their environment. You're born with a clean slate, and you become what your situation kind of is at times, in terms of like if you're constantly put down. Yes, of course you can rise from the ashes, like stuff like that can happen, but when temptation is presented in certain situations in humanity's history, we are more likely to take advantage of power than to use it responsibly. And I think with certain types of power, there should be certain limitations. And even if you're a great person, even a great person given too much power will try to be responsible with it, but temptation can be too great. Now, they might not cross certain lines of murder and hurting people, but there can be ways that it can, I think, naturally just negatively impact you, even without you realizing it.
I wouldn't want to give that power to a high school boy or something, because I feel like then they'd be going into the girls' locker room and bullshit.
Well, see, my thing is I always base, and I know that there's been time travel, time manipulation stories before Life is Strange, but I like to base everything around Life is Strange just because of how influential that game series was to me, is that Max can freeze time to a degree, but she can't move very far from where she was originally. At most, she can move maybe within 100-foot radius.
Yeah.
So I don't imagine being cool, I'm gonna stop time, go and hop on a plane, fly to Italy. I don't imagine that would be a thing. It would be you can stop time and stay in your immediate area, but you wouldn't really be able to travel far.
Yeah, I guess depending on the limitations.
Look, man, 100-foot radius, plenty enough room to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, then you could just
for sure,
Brian, you could just stop time and just take your time on finishing audio for something, and then just be like, "Oh yeah, it was done an hour ago," and they're like, "But I gave it to you 5 minutes ago." Exactly.
Yeah, I guess it's just more of the fear of being given too much power, because it's not that you don't want power, and it's not that and when I say that I believe that in a lot of cases people are the product of their environment, I think that if certain privileges are given to you from a young age, like if you start out rich or stuff like that, it can kind of take over in a way that you don't even realize that you're corrupt, or you don't even realize the negatives that you're having or the experiences that you're not having that make you relatable to others. Mm-hmm. And that can be dangerous. And being able to acknowledge those privileges is so important. And I think, obviously I can say at this time in my life, if I had that power, I would use it for this, this, and this. But you never know what kind of situation you might get yourself in. And just, not that I think I'm going to go murdering people or something, but I would just, Katy, I'd be afraid.
All I'm going to say is if you're flying and you accidentally fly over somewhere you're not supposed to be, you're going to really wish you could stop time.
I mean, that is true. But I can fly.
Yeah, but can you fly faster than a speeding bullet?
Ooh. I mean, heck. The more that we talk about it, the more I want the stop time thing, even though I'm up on my high horse about power. I'm just
Look, we trust you, Katy. Just come stop time and sleep with us. That's all.
Exactly.
This is so tempting. But
because that's in my life, that is the number one thing. I always want more sleep.
Yeah. Man, I can relate
would
to
be
that,
so
Brian.
good.
Brian and I established very early on in our friendship that we are essentially the same person.
Fine, I'm gonna come over to the corrupt side and I'm gonna stop time.
Yes.
I really do want more sleep and I want to play more video games and I want to record more auditions and god dang it.
Yep. See, it's so
Yeah,
useful.
you see, like, and then when you forget about that one audition where you're like, shit, the deadline's in 5 minutes. Guess what? You can totally make it.
Yep.
So I have a petty question then.
Okay.
Do you think there would be a time where you would where you would break the law minorly, not hurting anyone necessarily, but like,
Yeah.
do you think if you were at a gas station and you were like,
Yes.
I want a cupcake, but I don't feel like paying $1, would you take it?
I don't know
Like,
that I'd
stop
do
time
that
and
with a
catch you?
cupcake, but I could definitely see myself, like, breaking the law a little bit, like, you know,
gonna
Corrupt ass
jaywalk, Brian?
motherfuckers.
yeah, like I don't like. I feel like, if somebody like say if somebody cut me off in traffic, I could be like, bitch, stop time. Go out, maybe like, do something to their car or something.
Slash the tire.
Oh my god! I was just talking about stealing a cupcake from a giant corporation.
See, Katie, we established like back in episode 1 that I'm of the mindset that as long as I'm not hurting anyone, because I never want to hurt someone.
I'd never do something to their car that would like make them crash or anything.
But as long as I know,
I just like write like dick on their windshield or something.
if I
In
know
whipped
that I
cream or
can get
something.
away with it, I'ma do it. Like,
Oh yeah, there was that question where you were just like,
what
yeah, I
is
want
it,
that gelato
chaotic
free card.
evil or some shit like that.
Yeah. I think I'm like more neutral good, but I am the type of person that if I took a cupcake, I would freak out. I'd be like, oh my god, I took that cupcake. Oh my god.
You're a guilty conscience.
Oh yeah, it's such a guilty conscience. So
Man.
I am
think
too with
I'm
my
neutral good.
friends. Like, I'm a guilty conscience with my friends, but it's
Even though it's a giant corporation and stealing from giant ass corporations that don't probably give a shit about smaller people, I don't feel bad stealing $1 worth of merch from them. I mean, I still would because I'm fucking me. But like, if I had this ability and there was a crime I was going to commit, I wouldn't steal a donut from a bakery that's family owned. I would steal like a Hostess cake from Walmart.
Oh, I know what I'd do. If I was ever like caught speeding like on the highway or something, and like a cop was trying to pull me over, I'd definitely stop time and just like fucking drive away. Like, what's the cop gonna do? Like,
What's he gonna do? It's gonna be like, where did that car go? They must have been going really fast.
Yeah, they must have been going really fast. We gotta put out an APB for that guy.
As long as they don't see your license plate, but they probably already saw it by the time the thing's like rolling.
man, I don't know. I don't know about that, man. Like, if
Brian's like, gotta go fast.
gotta go fast.
Go fast.
Gotta go fast. The moment you see them flashing lights, like you gotta act immediately.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Oh, but would you be able to get past the traffic? Because all the cars in front of you are going to be stopped. So.
I mean, here's what you do, okay? You move into a lane that's got like a long like stretch before you'd have to hit another car. You stop time, then you slow down and you navigate. That's how you do it.
Heck, it'd be funnier if you drove behind them and just got like a few feet behind them. So they're like, where did they go? And you're just like sneaking along behind them.
So I think
petty crimes.
Are we all in agreement and stop time then?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes, we're stopping time.
Hell yeah.
So now that we are proven delinquents, I think it's time that we get to our fan questions because apparently these people want to know things about us.
Oh God.
These fan questions were taken from Ask the Crew on our KRWBY Discord. Please, if you would like to ask a question, like Beau said earlier in the KRWBY News Corner, leave a comment on this video. We will always read them. Or go to our Ask the Crew and ask us some questions there in the beautiful, amazing Discord. So our first fan question is, any thoughts on full dive virtual reality could exist anytime in the future?
Another virtual
Could full
reality
dive-
question.
Yeah,
It's a good thing
there's
because
a
Brian loves
Thieves Day.
isekai anime, so
Oh,
He
no.
He loves them so much.
his favorite show. He has said, quote, SAO is my crack.
Man, what? you bitch. Okay, look. I did in fact say that. I also can't help but notice that you left out what I prefaced that with, which is The full quote was, "SAO is not a good show, but I can't deny that shit is my crack."
So yeah, just to reiterate the
Yeah.
question. So it's any thoughts on a full dive virtual reality and if it could exist anytime in the future. So are you thinking yes? Are you thinking
I
no?
think that it's not too far fetched. I think they just need to figure out how to do the whole like digitizing your brain and be able to do that, like overriding your body actually moving. Unless we're talking like Ready Player One full dive, because they still have to physically move in the real world in order to play Ready Player One.
I think if there's going to be any full dive virtual reality to exist, I think the porn industry is going to get it first.
Man.
I'm just being real.
You're not wrong. No, I think to be honest with you, I think
And I would use the fuck out of it.
to be honest with you,
Katy.
to be honest with you, if we ever got full dive virtual reality, I think that virtual reality would be like the least impressive part of that technology, because if you're able to digitize somebody's brain, at that point you've achieved immortality.
Yeah. Oh, that's a Black Mirror episode, actually.
So I have not seen Black Mirror.
There's a full episode. There's multiple episodes on that, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, at that point you've achieved immortality. So I mean, I think that probably one day some person a lot smarter than I am will figure that out. I don't know when that's going to be, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I think that we could have full dive virtual reality.
I don't know if we would be able to fully take our brain and digitalize it. I think that we could create a program that if someone's talking to it, they would actually think it's you. And so I think there could be some trickery afoot there, but I don't think we could actually take what's inside of our head and legitimately like get our consciousness onto another plane.
Let me put it this way though, because like, you know, people said the same thing about like, you know, from coming at it from an audio engineer's perspective, people said the same thing about sound, right? You know, it used to be that if you wanted to hear a piece of music, you had to go to a concert, and there was no way to save that and that snapshot of that music. If you wanted to hear it, you had to go hear somebody play it. And then we developed technology that captured sound waves and was able to reproduce them.
I guess one
and
difference
so
I
I feel like it's
yeah.
literally, and then, you know, we found a way to get it into the computer. We found a way to take something that was inherently analog and turn it digital.
But that's something external about us versus like our dreams. I don't even think, as much as I think it would be cool, I don't think there would be a way to display our dreams onto a screen. I don't think that would translate, because that's not even something we can show someone else. We can share sound with someone so we can copy that, but we can't actually share certain things in our head.
Right, except that, you know, what you're talking about, I mean, everything that's in our brain is it's literally just it's electricity, you know, moving from one what is it, synapse? I don't know that much about. Yeah. Moving from one synapse to another, and just kind of this interconnected web. And I think that once we figure out, I mean, it was, like I said, I think it's going to take time, but figuring out how all of that stuff works, and you know, and what little electric spark means what, and you know what it's lighting up. Like, I think that at some point somebody's going to figure all that crap out.
I think what it would really come down to is, again, like, what is reality but how our brain perceives things. So if we could figure out a way to influence and control those electric synapses that are firing off in your brain, and then make it to where that same influence can be customized to each individual person, because no two brains are exactly the same. So you would have to figure out a way of being able to account for this person having this kind of like maybe mental block of not being able to do it in this person, but then just be able to influence it to where everyone that is participating is able to see the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, think about it. Think about it this way.
waves.
Think about it this way, right?
Okay.
Like if it was sight, you see like light comes into your eyes, you see it, but ultimately it's those electronic signals. They're electronic signals coming from your eyes that are being sent to your brain, and that's how all that processing is happening. And that's like I don't think it like ultimately I'm not an expert in this field whatsoever. I could just be talking out of my ass. But my understanding of it is that, what we see is how our brain is reconstructing that data that's coming from our eyes. And somehow that's being electronically sent. So
that is a better. I like Beau's phrasing there, and that does actually make me consider a little more the possibility.
And the interesting thing is actually something, because my parents actually had to look into it, because for whatever, back when I first started playing video games, I never used to have problems with like motion sickness or anything like that. And my mom had done research. My mom was also a nurse. When she had done some research into it about like why there was this kind of like epidemic of kids getting motion sickness, and it was something, the way it explained was that your eyes see the video game, sees like you're playing like say a first person shooter, which is usually what it was happening from, and your brain sees, the hands holding the gun, sees the perspective, sees you moving around, but then it gets confused because it doesn't feel your body moving. And that's where the disconnect happens, and then the motion sickness happens, is because your brain's trying to figure out why it's seeing you running around, jumping up and down, shooting, moving, but not feeling your body. If there was a way to cut that off and then make it to where you can convince your brain that you're actually doing all those movements, that's kind of where I feel like you'd be kind of teetering on the precipice of really mastering that full dive technology.
Yeah, it's just about slowly altering your perception.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the other side of that too is, figuring out how to intercept those signals from your brain that are telling you to move your arm, to move your legs, that kind of stuff, and finding a way to translate that into
a drug or something,
into an electronic signal and a piece of electronic code or computer code that reads that stuff and inputs that onto your avatar within the virtual world.
This is scary. We're becoming like a virtual reality like conspiracy theorist podcast.
Well,
now.
because the thing is that now with technology, with what we have access to, it's really not that far-fetched. Like realistically, I would say we're probably still at least a solid like 50 to 70 years from full dive technology. I think realistically.
Yeah, we're probably still a ways out, but yeah.
But I think that the concept is much more believable and much more realistic than it would have been 20 years ago.
For sure. Definitely. That is a scary thought too. And then not even bringing up the morality. And like one thing in Black Mirror is kind of like it went into the fact that if you could do this immortal thing, it was mostly for the rich and privileged because it would be an expensive thing. And so like the elderly though would have like the option when you reach a certain age. So like young people wouldn't really be allowed to do it because you would have to have enough money saved to afford it. And like they would put like your chip into like this memory bank that's like uses so much electricity. So like you're living there in like this virtual heaven for as long as this system can run. But if the electricity ever went out, then you die for real. Like
if you die in full dive, you die in real life.
Yeah. So it's a good episode.
It's a really interesting
called,
concept.
What is it called? Heaven is a Place on Earth. I think that's what it's called. And then they have that song in it, and it's a good episode. It's very poppy and fun and like futuristic, but like yeah. 10 out of 10. Recommend Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think we definitely deep dived on that one. So to answer your question, maybe question mark?
I don't know, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, fam. We ain't scientists. But let's get into a RWBY question, a RWBY fan question.
Ooh.
So, possible RT spoilers, and we don't have to super spoil if we don't want to, but, if you're listening to this podcast and you watch our content, you probably know what RWBY is at least. Who do you think has the
#RWBY
best...
dies in season 22.
Damn it! That's in season 80! You bitch. So who do you think has the best backstory / character development in RWBY?
Weiss.
And I don't even think I have to say my answer. It's Weiss!
Yeah.
I was about to be like, so, who's your favorite character and why is it Weiss?
Why is Weiss best girl? And also, why is Weiss best girl? I mean, it's so real.
For those reasons, best backstory, best character development.
Yeah.
I think that when you kind of like take away the whole aspect of her being rich, her being privileged, the story of having these very harsh, almost semi-unrealistic expectations being forced on you as a child by a parental figure. I think that that's a very relatable concept to a lot of people. One of the reasons why I relate to Weiss so much. And then you throw into the privilege into the mix of her growing up with, despite the fact that her and her father aren't on the best terms, she still grew up in a very rich, very wealthy environment, wealthy family, and not necessarily knowing any better is also still a huge thing that is very relatable because, I've had instances where I've met people, and not to say that rich people can't be good people, but a lot of them just don't understand what it is to not be able to afford something, to not be able to go, like how relatable is the concept of kind of just being so broke that you kind of just even avoid going out with friends because you don't want to feel bad that you can't go into the stores or buy anything, And I think that having that kind of from the other end of the spectrum of having a character that doesn't get that is really interesting because it then, I'm all about, representation. And I think that everyone should have at least one character that they've had the opportunity to relate to and understand.
Yeah. And having a character that's allowed to not only make mistakes, but you show the perspective of how they came to have that mindset, but you also show them being exposed to the realities of the world and exposed to the natural things that we as people are supposed to go through in life to fix our mistakes and learning from them and her seeing the error of her ways. My favorite moment with Weiss was in that first arc with Blake when they were discovering she was a faunus. And spoiler. And the fact that when she came back, Blake was so scared of Weiss, of Weiss saying something mean to her or this or that, and Weiss saying you're my teammate and you say that you're not with these people that are doing these bad things, right? And Blake's I don't do those things. And she being then that's all that I need is your word. I trust you. You are my friend. You aren't if you're not like other people and you say that and I see the character for who you are and I see that your character is good, then I can trust you. Versus that's so against what Weiss was raised to believe, with stereotyping or with just the stuff she's had put down her throat. That was one of my favorite moments of her really growing and developing and realizing that the world isn't so black and white.
Or, monochrome.
Yeah, but also the fact that it, I think, realistically showcased the fact that because there can be kind of extremified stuff in cartoons, to make things zanier. So they'll have a character do something really bad, but then they bring him back because, we want to like this character. But they made this character realistically unlikable, but also realistically forgivable. Stories about bullies or stories about characters that you understand and you reasonably are fuck this person, but you also can understand when they're trying to be better. And no one is owed forgiveness and no one is owed to be given a place in your life if they have treated you that way. But the fact that it shows the real struggles of a person trying to right their wrongs and trying to become the person that they want to be instead of the person they were told they have to be. And seeing what really gets me about Weiss, and which is a lot, but the fact that on her journey, I can feel the anxiety, and I felt it before, where you feel this is who you are because this is what these people have told you are. But then her friends standing by her and saying, no, fuck what those other people say about you. We know who you are because we actually love and care about you and want you to become the best version of yourself, not just what will benefit us or not just what we want you to be so that we can gain something from you. We actually think you're amazing and we love you. And if anyone tries to tell you anything that you don't believe is true about yourself, we believe you and we are here with you.
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
Yeah.
the fact
One
that
of my-
she has that anxiety, just I get it.
One of my favorite moments, especially, from more recently, is, as you said, Weiss started out as, it's pretty cut and dry. Like, Weiss started out as a racist.
Yeah.
And, with discriminating against Blake, not just because she was a faunus, but because she was a member of the White Fang. Which is maybe a little bit more of a reasonable reason to discriminate against.
Yeah.
But they, to all of a sudden, fast forward to volume 6, where they're outside the gates of the base at Argus, talking with Cordovan, and Cordovan looks directly at Blake and says, we'll take Weiss, but we won't take the rest of her friends of questionable character. Looking directly at Blake when she says that, and Weiss literally steps up in front of Blake and is like, "What is that supposed to mean?"
Yeah.
Stepping it like it's a complete reversal from where she was in volume 1.
But it's also commentary on the fact that if you're in a position of privilege, you shouldn't just say, "Oh, I don't deserve this," because of course nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves privilege or to be above people, but what you have is what you have, and what you do with it is what is important. So if you are in a position of privilege where you can call bullshit out, you should use that privilege to call bullshit out. And Weiss is an example of that. Because it's not that Blake necessarily needs Weiss to save her, but the fact that they are friends and Weiss is willing to do something that could make her look bad, that
Weiss
could make her reputation.
Weiss is in quite a considerable position of power. They're not just because she's not a faunus, but also because she's the heiress to the Schnee Dust Company, and she's a prominent figure
so
in Atlas.
much privilege.
Yeah.
Another really big thing too, and I remember reading an article about it where it's like the best way to deal with closed-minded people when they're making closed-minded statements is keep asking them to like explain what exactly they mean. Like, like the what's that supposed to mean? Like, what exactly do you mean by that? Asking them questions and making them basically finally come out and say, it's because I hate, whatever type of minority, or it's because I don't like this. It's like, well, why do you
They make me uncomfortable. They make me this or that or that.
And exactly. And it's like,
keep asking the why questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it forces
But
them
also,
to kind of come face to face with, fuck, I'm a racist.
Now,
it's hard.
In fairness, to play devil's advocate to Cordovan there is also the fact that the entire world saw Yang punch Mercury in the leg.
Yeah.
So she might, when she said friends of questionable character, that might have had something to do with it too.
There's one aspect too that's actually really interesting. I'm gonna get back to Weiss in just a second here, but just real quick, is that Blake is the daughter of the man who founded the White Fang. I honestly feel like that might be kind of public knowledge, at least amongst like military officials and whatnot. And so she might very well know exactly who Blake is. Not just from just being a part of Team RWBY, but like being the creator, the founder of the White Fang, and then seeing it fall so far, kind of almost because of the choices that the founder made.
But the fact that he said questionable character instead of outright saying it, though, kind of indicates that he was just making a judgment call on her.
Now, I will say, I feel like that might not be the case, just with people knowing that Blake is the daughter of the founder of the White Fang, because I feel like, I know that Ozpin figured it out, but there was definitely never any indication from like Ironwood or anybody else, and it definitely seemed like Ozpin figured it out through his shady back channel Ozpin ways of doing things.
That's not to say that everyone that does know it is going to immediately assume that she's a bad person, because people take knowledge and they make their decisions based off of the knowledge they have. And so realistically, It's like, okay, you know, like a good person, or at least an understanding, open-minded person would not assume that just because she was a product of the White Fang doesn't mean that she's, you know, the same as like the same type of monster that Adam is. But yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. Going
now,
back,
so I will say just to plug something real quick, just to quickly plug Ruby Abridged. That scene with Ozpin and Blake, that's coming up in the next episode. So
yeah, it's
really
exciting.
really excited to. I mean, I know how they handle it in the Abridged because I've read the script, but I'm really excited for everybody else to see how they handle that scene.
I'm excited.
But going back to Weiss real quick, actually, you know, as much as I love Weiss coming to Blake's defense at the gates to Argus and whatnot, and then also again Weiss coming to Blake's defense talking to Yang in Volume 5. One of my favorite moments with Weiss was actually, again, way back in Volume 1, when her and Ruby are arguing in the Emerald Forest, and Ruby says, "Stop acting like you're so perfect," and Weiss retorts with, "I'm not perfect, not yet." And yeah, she follows it up with kind of a really bully remark of like, I'm still leagues better than you. But I always thought that it was so admirable that she acknowledges that she is not perfect, and that she also acknowledges that she is actively trying to become the best that she can.
But she at the time was trying to become this idea of perfect, and it was kind of the anxiety of her realizing what she's been told, because her because her father has probably told her what the expectations are and that she has not met them, or she's comparing herself to Winter by saying, "I'm not perfect because I'm not like Winter." And so it's just another showcase of another reason I like Weiss, kind of in a different context of the same situation, is that she is someone that struggles with anxiety and self-image. Mirror, mirror, like she's
and
supposed to be like reflection. Yeah, and so her seeing those and facing those and having friends by her side to kind of dismiss those, because I think each of the RWBY girls has a different side of like mental health that they can represent. You know, of course you can be picking at straws and you can make anything about anything you want if you try, but like I think it's very real that they have like PTSD represented with Yang, and they have like hella anxiety and image issues with Weiss, and then like Blake is obviously dealing with like kind of that internal insecurity in general, and Ruby being like, well, I'm not good enough, which, you know, those are kind of like sides of anxiety, and there might be somebody that's
I would argue
looks
that
deeper into it.
I would argue that there has been, I mean, I hate to be that guy. I would argue that Ruby hasn't represented much of anything until more recently.
Yeah, that is definitely fair. Like, that's why I kind of struggled a little bit with Ruby to say if somebody else has like a different like perspective or something to add on to that, I would love to hear about it, because I do think each of the girls have their own internal struggles. But out of all the girls being characterized, Weiss has been the one that you've seen grow the most, because you've really understood where she's coming from, versus Ruby has kind of had, sadly, some of that protagonist juice thrown on her, in that like we're drinking that protagonist bitch juice, where it's kind of like,
I would say almost that at least with like this most recent season or volume, Ruby has really kind of shown, like, obviously she's always been really socially awkward, which is such a relatable trait.
Yeah.
But with this latest season, she's kind of really been struggling with, and I know that if Tina gets to this far in the video, she's just going to be like, yep, mood, man. But is that Ruby kind of really exhibited signs of struggling with like kind of like imposter syndrome almost, when she was talking to Maria and talking about like just really not knowing what to do as a leader, and feeling like she's letting her team down, letting all the people that's counting on her down. And I think that that's also a very relatable thing. That's something that, you know, Lindsay Jones talks about a lot too.
Yeah,
I could
agree with that.
I could see how Tina would find that very relatable. I just let's quick shout out to Tina for being amazing.
Tina, you're great.
Yeah.
Like, we had Tina on before, and we'll probably have Tina on again just because Tina's great. And like, who knows? We might have multiple guests on that we've had before.
Tina,
just because we might get crazy, but yeah.
Tina and I talk about logistical KRWBY stuff on a very regular basis, and the shit that she deals with in keeping everything running and making sure that that everybody's happy, and that we're all getting along and we're not fighting, and just like she deals with so much stuff, and she's just been like I know that it wears on her from time to time, but God, like she does such an incredible job. So thank you,
So
Tina.
everybody, stop right now if you're listening. Pause the episode. Go to Tina's Twitter. Go to Tina's Twitter and tweet at her, Tina, you are amazing and we appreciate what you do. Go do that.
Absolutely.
Or if you're on the Discord server, go Discord her that because she usually keeps her her messages open. If you have a way to contact Tina that you know that she is okay with being contacted through, go tell her that you love her and appreciate her. And now you can
Absolutely.
unpause the episode because, yes, that needed to be done. So, yeah,
Anyways,
guess,
final
Weiss
answer,
is unanimous.
Yeah.
Weiss.
Yeah.
I just want you guys to know that I just tweeted at Tina, you are amazing and I appreciate what you do.
Heck, yes, she's doing so much, and we're so happy to have her. So let's get to our final fan question before we wrap things up. How does that sound, Fam-a-lam?
That sounds good.
Heck yeah! Speaking of sound, but
Oh my God.
oh, not counting the RWBY music. What kind of music do you guys listen to? Favorite bands? I'm such a white girl. Taylor Swift is my queen, and I stan.
You know, I feel like it might come as a surprise to some people. If you watch my streams, then it really won't come as a surprise. But I am such a sucker for like hard step, dubstep, EDM. Like if it's got bass and got some like hi-hats and like a little bit in between, like I'm a sucker for it. Like
Oh yeah.
I love dubstep.
Oh, I'm also a fan. My favorite genre of rap is tiny anime girls rapping. If there's a tiny anime girl cursing profusely, that is my shit.
Oh my
so
God.
it's somewhere between kawaii anime girl rapping and Taylor Swift. That's me.
You know what? If I had to choose two things to describe you, Katy, I think that's probably what it would be.
Just the color hot pink with like cute anime girls and feathers.
And then like two middle fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
What about you, Brian?
I listen, as an audio engineer, I try to listen to a little bit of everything. Especially because when I first got into audio, I was originally getting into it to record and mix music. And obviously now I work in post, so I'm working on film and television and that kind of stuff. Obviously, working on RWBY Abridged. Like back, especially when I was, my main focus was music, I was just, as an engineer, you kind of have to be able to work on and mix anything. So you kind of find a way to appreciate each genre, and find something that you like about it, because inevitably you're probably going to have to work on something in that genre at some point.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to enjoy it, because for anything, if you're not passionate about it, like it doesn't need to be like the thing that you're the most excited about in the entire world. But if you can't find something to enjoy about it while you're working on it, then, it's probably not going to be that good.
That's just good life advice
Yeah.
in general.
So, I listen to a lot of different kinds of music, and anything that I'm able to listen to where I go, oh, that's new, like something that I've never heard before, then usually I'm very, very interested in that, because especially with a lot of like Western pop music and stuff, I'm not as big on that, because it's all for the most part, they're all basically the same song. I hear the exact same formula over and over and over again, which is fine. It's fine to have a formula, and it's fine for that formula to be popular, but I very rarely hear anybody do anything super interesting within the confines of that formula, or something that I haven't necessarily heard before. And I think that's a big part of why I like listening to Japanese music so much. And it's not just because I'm a fucking weeb, but it's different. I genuinely hear a lot of different things and a lot of different ideas explored in Japanese music that I very rarely get to hear in just about anything else.
Ikemono Gakari is one of my favorites, because obviously Naruto and Bleach endings, but I remember one of the first CDs that I ordered online from an anime was I had heard the Bluebird song from Naruto Shippuden, and so I went and discovered the artist was Ikemono Gakari, and I looked them up and I bought their CD and had it shipped, and I listened to it to this day. And memorizing Japanese songs is like so fun, and going to
it's
anime
so much
conventions
fun.
and singing like songs with a community that like that they're into this shit because like they wouldn't take this extra steps.
Man,
To,
I've
to
heard.
do this, like, yeah.
Man, you should hear, like, every now and again, like, my family has caught me, like, singing some like song in Japanese, and they'll be like, man, this is a cool song. Like, what's it about? Like, what are you saying? And I'm like, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah. But like memorizing like the way they pronounce
Yeah.
things, or like the different like, and I've looked up English lyrics before too, and like so I've tried to sing like the English translation directly over it, and like sometimes it'll work, like depending. But like the Romaji, when I was a kid, I used to carry around printed out like Naruto opening Romaji. So like if it was like Urubashiki, it would be spelled AH space URA space WA space, like all like I would print out pages of that, and I would just like carry it around so I could memorize it, so that when I would watch Naruto on the weekends, I could perfectly sing the songs. Like it was one of my weeb treasure moments from my childhood, and I still to this day do a little bit of that. Not printing, because I have like a phone now, but I'll like look at stuff and be like, can I sing this? Ooh, yeah, I can sing that. Hell yeah.
It's also been super helpful for me too, because I've been learning a little bit of Japanese here and there, especially because
Nice, 'cause Annika.
especially I hang out with Annika all the time, and Annika's a Japanese major. And
one day, audience, you guys need to meet Annika. She's amazing.
Yeah, no, she's incredible, and she and I are kind of like we're almost kind of like a little like production team between the two of us.
Best friends.
That do, we have a history of doing like anime dubs and things like that, and so we're really, really passionate about like localization and translation and all that kind of stuff. So we both have. I mean, she's got a much deeper knowledge of the Japanese language than I do, but we both have at least a
Welcome to another version
average
of the segment where we talk about how amazing insert person is. Annika is a great editor too. She helped me with my visual reel that you guys are going to see in like a week or two. And
has she sent that back to you?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
And I actually submitted it to someone who wanted to hire people for indie stuff. And they liked it and was like, yeah, we can get you some auditions. And I was like,
nice.
Indie stuff.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. Sorry, Beau, I'll let you talk in just a second. But yeah, like we do a lot of that kind of stuff of just like, sitting down and figuring out translate. Like we do it all the time. Like when we're watching anime, we'll sit down, like we'll analyze translations, be like, didn't like those subs there, didn't like that translation, or we'll look at that and be like, man, that was stupidly Japanese. How would we translate that into an English dub? And that definitely translates over into the music too, because she's a huge Macross fan, and obviously there's a huge music tradition in Macross.
At the same time.
And so we'll talk about Japanese translations in music too. But yeah, anyways, what were you gonna say, Beau?
What are your songs? More songs.
Well, my all-time favorite song, and so this is where it's gonna really become obvious, the fact that, because my mom didn't really sing. She sang to like me as a kid, but she wasn't a singer. Whereas on my dad's side of the family, I am a 7th generation singer. And so music really often came from my dad's side of the family, and he was born in the 1940s. And so my all-time favorite song is still Somewhere Over the Rainbow from the Wizard of Oz, because that is a classic. And it is beautiful, and I can't believe that it was actually almost cut from the movie because they thought that it slowed down the pacing too much.
Wow.
And it's single-handedly one of the most like requested, played, iconic songs in the history of like everything. And then going off of that, my favorite singers are Judy Garland and Frank Sinatra. Like, not gonna lie, like I love listening to current day stuff, like as far as like the EDM and dubstep goes. But man, on days that I'm just like, I really just want to listen to, like, it's one of those, it's like, why listen to something new when you can go back to something that you already know that you love And
Yeah,
I always will,
oh my gosh,
I
yes.
always will find myself listening to Judy
There's
Garland
a
and Frank
duet
Sinatra.
between Barbara Streisand and Judy Garland that is like my favorite. It's Happy Days. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
happy days are here again. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like, their voices are angels. And Sarah Bareilles is a modern singer that just radiates that vibe. Like, her songwriting and singing abilities are so amazing. And they have that old style, like, jazzy, like piano string instrument feeling, like, and she's also my favorite singer. Like, Taylor Swift was always my favorite growing up, and I still love her, but her and Sarah Bareilles are kind of tied because Sarah just knows how to really sing those emotional songs that got me through so many breakups. Like, Taylor Swift is one of those like singers about like emotional boyfriend or girlfriend stuff that's like, it hits you, but it's also a lot empowering. Like, she like really takes the power back, but Sarah knows how to get to the part that makes you fucking break down.
Yeah.
And like, it's and sometimes you need a mix of that. And even on my happy days, listening to the song Gravity by Sarah Bareilles, even when I'm feeling happy, it can always affect me in a different way.
I've
Like,
recorded
I never
that
know.
song.
Oh yeah, I did it at karaoke.
Yeah,
once.
I have a friend who's also an incredible voice actress.
Yeah.
But she's also, I mean, she's in the acting world. She's what's known as a triple threat, which means that she sings, she dances,
Is
and
it Elsie
and she acts.
Lovelock?
No, this her.
Because I love that woman.
No, her name's Isabel Beeman.
Nice.
And for any of y'all in the server who way back when were able to actually attend our private screening of the Macross Delta dub that Annika and I did, she was the voice of Mirage in that, and
She's so
yeah,
good.
no, and she's also she also was the singing voice of Mikamo in that, and she's incredible. But a couple years ago, I pulled her and a friend into a studio, and I was like, you want to do something? She was like, yeah, I want to record a cover of Gravity, and so we did a live cover of Gravity in studio with on a Steinway on a Steinway grand piano, and I had her just in the studio with
That song
me.
gives me chills. Like,
But to answer like a specific artist or band, for me, like, for you, Katie says like, Taylor Swift, Sarah Bareilles, that kind of stuff. For me, especially growing up, it was Michael Jackson.
yeah.
I absolutely like the level of musicality and songwriting abilities of that man and all of the stuff that he was able to do. And Beau, you were talking about how like Somewhere Over the Rainbow almost got cut from the movie. There's a really crazy story about how when they were working on the Thriller album, Quincy Jones didn't like Billie Jean, and he wanted to cut Billie Jean from the album, and they were like, nah, and then Billie Jean, and of course ended up being the huge hit that it was. So yeah, for me, there's that. Although currently, right now, what I listen to probably more than anything else is I listen to film and anime soundtracks. Because I grew up
Steven Universe soundtrack represent.
Yeah, I grew up as a classical musician, so I love, I really love the storytelling capacity of a full orchestra, and
can't go wrong with like Broadway soundtracks.
Oh yeah,
Once a week at least. Once a week, I listen to the entire Wicked soundtrack, all built out.
Oh,
like,
it's good.
Like
That's a good
The Wizard and I, and I know that Tina does too. Like.
Yes.
We're both obsessed with Wicked. Wicked is like
I
again,
need
Wizard
to
of
karaoke
Oz.
with you all one day. Like if I can go to ALA, we have to go to karaoke in Little Tokyo. Like, I want to, man. And honestly, I got paid like for 3 projects today, and things are looking good.
Man, like Annika has been trying to get me to go to Little Tokyo and go to do
get
karaoke
both of us,
shit.
man. Like,
Yeah.
shit. After once she and I met, she's like,
I
You're
went
coming
when
with
I went
us.
to Anime Expo. I got to eat some of that ice cream that's like, it's a little pastry that's shaped like a fish, and it like has the ice cream coming out of its mouth. I got to do that.
Oh my god! In true weeb fashion.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Unsurprising to anyone in this call.
Yeah. But yeah, right now, just because of like, stuff that I've been working on recently, like I've been listening to a lot of like the Land of the Lustrous soundtrack and a lot of the Demon Slayer soundtrack. And because both of them have like a very unique sound, a very unique style. And like I said, I like stuff that makes me go, ooh, that's new. I've never heard that before.
My favorite
So-
to this day, my favorite anime like TV show soundtrack is the Angel Beats soundtrack. I know that you don't like Angel Beats, but the soundtrack was so good. Like the girls band Gildemo is like, their songs are so good and I love it so much. That was one of the series. It was just like, man, they put more budget into the soundtrack than they did into like everything else.
No, I feel
fair.
that. My favorite anime soundtrack is the Little Witch Academia soundtrack. That soundtrack blows my mind, and it's like, and it blows my mind in a very subtle way too, because it's one of like it's incredibly brilliant, but it's like one of those things that like, unless you're really familiar with classical music and film scoring, there's a good chance that a lot of the really amazing things that soundtrack does storytelling wise is probably going to go over your head. Which,
I have a controversial anime music opinion.
oh yeah,
Oh.
So, you know the debate between Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood?
yeah.
I think Brotherhood is 100% a better series, but the bops, the jams, the sweet, sick rhymes, my dude, original Full Metal Alchemist has the better opening and ending songs.
It's been a really long time since
You
I've
know,
seen.
you're entitled
OG
to your
Full
Ready,
Metal.
opinion,
steady, don't hold me
Katie.
back.
You're-
Ready, steady, never look back.
You're entitled-
Let's get started, ready, steady, go.
You're entitled to your opinion no matter how wrong it is.
Kimi ga tobidatsu wa itsumo to onaji. They fucking rocked. I
But
I
see,
had
but
them
then
on
you've
DVD
got-
and I would listen to those
I
songs.
can't do the
repeat.
lyrics at all. But then Brotherhood, you've got the da 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 da
Da,
da
da,
da
da, da,
Oh yeah,
da.
again.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just saying the quantity of good songs, like, because they're all quality, like, but in Brotherhood, just there are some that I'd skip, but in the original, there was never a day I skipped them. Granted, I was a young weeb, so my nostalgia glasses might be there, but those original songs bopped, my dude, and to this day, Ready, Steady, Go it's just too good.
I mean, I feel that like I'll go back, like I'll try to listen to like the original like Japanese opening for Pokemon, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, no, this is wrong.
This is wrong. Oh my god. I have the To Be a Master CD from the Pokemon movie. And I also have the original Pokemon movie soundtrack, and it had like the extended version of the Pokemon theme song. It's like, any challenge along the way, with courage I will
And
face.
speaking of Pokemon, shout out to Ash for actually finally winning something.
Yeah. Wait, I
like
saw on Twitter,
20
didn't they
years.
win like the Orange League or something?
Yeah.
Like-
I just
Man,
thought it was funny that everyone just lost their fucking minds at Ash winning something.
No, but he had also apparently in the past won another smaller tournament or something.
Yeah.
But now he's actually won the one he set out to win, so this is good.
man,
Yes.
I can't say for what, but there was a thing that there's a thing that we're working on, and there were some jokes that we were planning for it, and for some of
Yeah.
those jokes I pulled some of the Pokemon soundtrack stuff, and it was just like, I haven't watched Pokemon in years, and going back through those soundtracks was like, it was just a trip down memory lane of like, especially like the Team Rocket theme music, like dun dun dun, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like it just like took me back to being like,
Oh,
it's
And
to
I
being
have
a kid.
I have one more music thing to say,
Mm-hmm.
and then that will be the end of my music things. My favorite soundtrack of all time, though, that is instrumental, is the Undertale soundtrack. I listen to it on repeat constantly, and the song "Home," like dun dun da 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 da. Like whenever I have anxiety, I legitimately listen to that song, and it calms me down. Like
And-
whenever I'm about to like go on stage or do something, like if I just listen to that song when I'm doing my makeup or when I'm doing whatever, it just like all of my nerves disappear.
Yeah. And I feel like in conclusion, super, obviously I think we can all agree, at least to a degree, that like music is just it's part of what really kind of drives everything onward. Is, you know, shout out to Jeff Williams and Alex Abraham.
Absolutely.
You know, like the RWBY
Yes.
soundtrack has been one of my favorite aspects of the show since the beginning with Red Like Roses.
Oh, I listened
Yeah,
to.
I mean-
Day by day, let's just live. Like that. That's my favorite.
Yeah, man, the RWBY soundtrack was where I first really started my exploration of film scoring and trying to figure that out. And it was, you know, forgive my pun, it was instrumental in me kind of figuring out the more subtle nuances of storytelling and music and how all this stuff fit together. And absolutely helped solidify my love of the leitmotif style.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the RWBY soundtrack, I mean, even I think anyone would tell you that, you know, RWBY started out, especially in the animation department, kind of rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the soundtrack has pretty consistently been one of the things that's always been just absolutely top notch.
Yeah.
For
definitely.
the show. And yeah, the RWBY music is amazing, and we pull from it. You know, whenever I'm composing something for KRWBY, like I pull from it all the time. There were RWBY motifs all over
Yes.
Nondescript Winter Holiday, and I definitely played with some RWBY motifs or some variations on RWBY motifs in Volume 2, Chapter 1. Like before the Frozen cue starts, or before like it gets to Let It Go, there's actually a variation on Ozpin's theme that plays.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that's when Ozpin walks in the door. So, and then like after Emerald and Mercury leave Tuxon's book trade, and it's like that shot of Blake in the cafeteria, I did I kind of bent the motif around so it's not quite the same, but I did a little bit of like my own rendition of Blake's motif, which I originally created for Nondescript Winter Holiday, but now that's in the full-on abridged series there for that sequence, a little piano bit. So yeah, it's just I if for no other reason, like I gotta thank Jeff Williams and Alex Abraham for making my life easier writing music for the abridged.
Yes. Well, I think this is a great place to end today's episode. I think we talked about some really awesome topics today, and we talked about Best Girl Weiss for like a long time,
Yep.
and that makes me very happy.
I think
Which-
that maybe this episode should be titled Best Girl.
Best Girl Weiss. Or
I
just
feel
Best
like
Girl.
I feel like that's kind of the hook though, is people gotta watch to find out who
Yeah,
Best
who
Girl
is
Ooh,
Best
that's-
Girl?
That's true. That's true. And I do love the fact that in most of our episodes of this podcast, we pretty much tell you what the episode's going to be, and you learn the way that it got named that. So, yes, I agree. Best Girl will be the title
Obviously,
of this episode.
Brian is Best Girl.
Obviously,
100%.
Brian, congratulations.
I am
on
the
winning
most
Best Girl award.
kawaii out of everyone.
Obviously,
Everybody, pause
Aren't I
this
so
episode real
cute?
quick. Pause this episode, go to Twitter, look up Hubbard Audio, and tweet that he is Best Girl. Do it right now. So, Brian, where can they find you? What Twitter was it again that I just said? Or did I say it wrong?
Yeah, if you want to find me, don't. No, actually,
Okay.
I do have a Twitter, although I'm not very active on it. It's at Hubbard
Yeah.
Audio. A better place if you want to get in contact with me is actually on my Discord, which I believe I'm not afraid of water in the Discord right now.
I'm also not afraid of water, Brian. What the fuck? Can you explain that one, Brian?
Well, it's because I'm Neptune, and Neptune is totally not afraid of water.
Okay, you're
I'm
right.
gonna change your
you're
name
right.
back to Totally a Slut for Aoyuki.
I am a slut for Aoyuki.
Oh my god. Would you like to promote anything?
No.
Alrighty. Beau, where can they find you?
As always, you guys can find me on Twitter at Beau from KRWBY, BeauFrom KRWBY. You can also find me on Twitch at CB Cosplay, which would be twitch.tv/CB Cosplay. That's where I do all of my streams, all of my fun chats. I've recently taken up doing cosplay like commission crafting streams as well, and kind of teaching what I know about that. So yeah, that's where I would like to be found. What about you, Katie?
You can find me, as usual, at KaniDay Official on Twitter and Instagram, KaniDay Cosplay on Facebook, and the Weird Flex But Okay podcast, the other podcast I host with Jordan Jax Played Down on YouTube at Weird Flex But Okay podcast. And you can find us here at KRWBY Productions. And you can also find me on Dr. Crafty, where I play Pepper and I'm one of the writers. And yeah, those are all the things. We did it. Quickly, someone say something funny so that everybody will be happy.
Be happy!
Whoa, that was hilarious! Beau, say something else funny.
Butts.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the comedy you can expect from us. We write comedy, guys.
We write comedy. Subscribe. KRWBY Abridged, KRWBY Productions, KRWBY. Thank you for joining us today. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.
Why?